Yo, what's up, sports bettors? I've given out a lot of bets on prize picks today, but nothing yet on Underdog Fantasy until now. So I've explained this before, but these platforms, they're relatively similar, but they are slightly different, right? So one example of how these platforms are different is for 3-pick entries. So what you're going to notice is on prize picks, for any 3-pick entry, these are both fixed payout platforms, so they're not going to change your payout based on you selecting over or under. But basically on prize picks, for any 3 picks you select, you're always getting a 5x payout. You're betting 1 to win 5. Whereas on Underdog Fantasy, any 3-pick entry, you're betting 1 to win 6. Right? So the payouts for 3-pick entries on Underdog are slightly higher. So there are differences between the platforms. And I say this a lot, but I highly, highly recommend you sign up for both of them, right? If you have access to both of them, get both. You never know if there's going to be more profitable bets on Underdog, more profitable bets on prize picks. You never know. So get as many of these platforms as you can. But anyways, let's go ahead. Let's get into Underdog Fantasy. So I've broken down this before, and I'll include this spreadsheet in the description. But based on the fact that you're getting a 6x payout, and again, it doesn't matter what 3 picks you select, right? So you can see if I include basketball picks instead, I'm still getting that 6x payout. Doesn't matter if I switch them all to unders, I'm still getting that 6x payout. So basically on Underdog Fantasy, right, any pick, it doesn't matter what 3 picks you select. So long story short, to be profitable on Underdog, all you have to do is win over 55.1% of your player props. Right? So what I mean by that is these over-unders, you got to be able to select them, 56, 57% of the time correctly. So if you're hitting your player props, so if you're winning, just like Bogdanovich over-under 11.5 points, if you can hit these over-unders correctly, right, at a rate of 56%, so you're winning 56, you're losing 44%, your ROI on Underdog is going to be positive, right? It would be 5.4% roughly. Whereas if you're only hitting 52% of your picks, right, you're going to lose money. Your ROI is going to be negative 16%. So if you're curious, how does Underdog Fantasy make money? Well, they assume most sports bettors, and which is true, right? Most sports bettors bet with their gut. They don't know anything about data. So most sports bettors can only select these over-unders correctly 50% of the time, around 50% of the time. So their ROI would be negative 25%. If you have no advantage, you're basically blindly selecting overs and unders, you're only going to be hitting these at a rate of 50% and you're going to lose a lot of money. So a lot of square sports bettors, maybe they hit 51% of their picks. They're losing a lot of money long term, even though they're winning the majority of their picks, right? You need to win at least 55.1% of your player props to be profitable. So the first tool that I use to find value on Underdog Fantasy is called the OddsJam Positive EV tool, right? So it's right here, Tools, Positive EV. So the Positive EV tool. And again, Underdog Fantasy, they're not changing your payout based on you selecting the over or the under. So what you really want to do is you just want to find spots, right, where sportsbooks have one side heavily favored. So you're going to notice right here, this play isn't on prize picks, right? This is another advantage of signing up for both platforms, is this play isn't on prize picks. Kyle Isbell to record a hit. So we want to take Kyle Isbell's over. 2.84% profit margin, so pretty good profit margin. And you're going to notice all the sports books, right? Every book sets lines independently. So we essentially have, like 10 different data points telling us where this line should be set. And all the books have this guy heavily favored to get a hit, right? DraftKings, MGM, they have him at minus 150, right? A pretty big favorite to get a hit. FanDuel has this minus 185, Caesars minus 155, Fliff minus 160. Bet Online, a really sharp sports book, has this minus 156. So all the books are telling you, yo, Kyle Isbell, he's a lot more likely to get a hit, right? So that's a profitable play to include in your Underdog entry. All the sports books have is over him to get a hit as the heavily favored outcome. So this is an amazing player prop to include. Now you may be curious though, okay, the over is favored, but how do we know the over is winning over 55.1% of the time? So that's a great question. And what you want to use is this calculator. So this is the most important calculator in sports betting. I talk about it in a lot of videos because it's literally the most important calculator in sports betting. This calculator, understanding it, will make you a lot of money sports betting. Read through this text, NoVague odds calculator, right? But long story short, what you want to do is put in a sportsbooks market. So we'll put in Bet Online. So Bet Online has the over as a pretty heavy favorite around minus 156, right? They have the under at plus 120. So the over is heavily favored, so we know the over is going to be more likely according to Bet Online and the market they're putting out, right? And you can see we're following all the data points. All these books have roughly similar odds. Bet Online has the over heavily favored minus 156. So they're saying, yo, based on the fact that we have this over juiced to minus 156, this player prop is 57.28% to win. So that's above 55.1%. So if all your picks on Underdog could hit 57.28% of the time, your ROI long-term is going to be roughly 13%. Pretty good, right? So long story short, that's the first player prop I went with. So you just want to use this NoVague calculator. Well, you don't have to use it, right? OddsJam does that automatically, but just these bets in bold and in green, we just want to find 3 picks like this on Underdog Fantasy. Kyle Isbell to record a hit, minus 122 odds. That's the play we want to go with. Right, so this NoVague odds calculator, it doesn't only work, obviously, for Underdog Fantasy. So Kyle Isbell was favored to get a hit, minus 156. But if you look, for example, at the Celtics game tonight, the Celtics are pretty big favorites, right? They're bigger favorites. The sportsbooks have them juiced all the way up to like minus 300. So according to FanDuel, FanDuel has the Celtics at minus 300, the Hawks at plus 245. And this calculator just, it's like an industry standard thing, right? Like there's no magic going on here. Minus 200 means a team is a 2-to-1 favorite. 2-to-1 favorite, 2/3 to win, 66.67% to win, right? Like odds have a relationship with probability. If a team's minus 200, they're 2-to-1 to win, 2/3 to win, 66.67%. So all this calculator does is it tells you that, right? So based on FanDuel's market, they're saying the Celtics are minus 300, the Hawks are plus 245. So the Celtics, according to FanDuel's model, are 72.13% to win this game. But long story short, first player prop I went with was right there, Kyle Isbell to record a hit. So then let's flip over to a new tool we launched on OddsJam. It works for Prize Picks, No House Advantage, all these different platforms. Again, sign up for all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 different options for these fantasy sites. A lot of value. Never know where the value is going to be on a given day. And you're going to see what this tool does is very similar to the EV tool. It just pulls in sportsbook odds, right? So Derek White, his under 1.5 turnovers is heavily favored on all the sportsbooks, right? DraftKings has his under at minus 135, Caesars minus 154, BetMGM minus 140. For LeBron James, under 16.5 rebounds plus assists, we're just following the data, right? All I'm doing is following the data. The sportsbooks, once again, have the under heavily favored. This is a player prop that's winning over 55.1% of the time. So these are great player props to include in your underdog entry. And that's basically how I find all my bets on Underdog Fantasy. I've made, well over $50,000 on Underdog Fantasy, literally just looking for value. Never in my life will I bet with my gut. Follow the data. Sportsbooks, you have tons of data points on where a line should be set, and you're just hunting for value in the market. So LeBron under 16.5 rebounds plus assists, Isbell hit, White under 1.5 turnovers. Let's make money.